The era of the young technologist with ripped jeans and a t-shirt that doesn't understand and disobeys all the rules of a local community because you're still important even though you're an asshole, I think it's just over. People are now scared of Silicon Valley. It's not some small sideshow. I think the story you need to show up now is like, I can bring to a lot. I can give more than I get. I have the technology. You can trust me to back it up. But I also have the respect to exist in your space.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to More or Less.
Hey, Jess.
We're down to more. We're currently down a more and a less. But hold on, Dave. I'm just going to call. Sam is supposed to be on this. We've been chasing him down. Where is Sam?
Yeah, now.
Oh, Are you on?
No, I'm getting on right now. I'm just leaving the Four Seasons.
Great. You're on air. We're taping. So, yeah. So great. We'll see you soon. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye. We got it. Well, Dave, today, do you know what day today is?
The man in a suit at the Four Seasons.
It's Etiquette Day. I cannot wait to hear. The pod will be the first to report back from the Slow Ventures Etiquette School. So
I should have put on a suit and gone into the city today, but here I am.
Oh my God, Dave, if you had shown up, you would have raised the bar.
I've actually got a closet full of good suits, but with the rare instance to wear them.
Well, Sam, he donned one this morning, wore cowboy boots. Now that he's not on the pod currently, he'll never listen to this. I can say I'd probably update the shoe. Well, it's going to be a fun episode. We are going to miss Britt, who has a conflict, but...
Yeah. Board meetings. Sometimes board meetings, sometimes they take precedent.
I mean, I promise you, people have taped podcasts during board meetings before. They've shopped on Amazon. They've sold Instagram. They would not be the first.
I did a board meeting this morning, and the last board meeting for this company was in person, and it was shockingly less productive over Zoom.
What was shockingly less productive over Zoom?
Here he is, straight from Etiquette School.
A gray suit. I'm surprised.
Hey, this is a Brioni suit, Dave.
Is that a blue tie for the blue wave happening in New York right now, Sam?
Absolutely not.
Okay, give us the top 3 bullets. You are fresh, moments out of Etiquette School. We've been hearing about it for months. Did it deliver?
So delivered. In fact, I'm realizing I just walked out and I realized I forgot to take the gift basket, which I'm annoyed about because it was great. Wilkes Bashford.
Wait, I thought we said there's no gift baskets anymore. I thought that was...
Wait, Wilkes Bashford? Go get that stuff. Go back.
We got Wilkes Bashford gift certificates. We had several models modeling different styles for different types of events. We had caviar and wine tasting and etiquette points, as well as a lot of points about how to manage your company and the etiquette, setting etiquette rules inside your company, how to be comfortable in a room, how to show up. I'm expecting several journalists were there.
I can watch. The clips are good rolling.
No one from the information. I don't know why that was, but I will. It delivered fabulously.
We're in our WTF come down, so we're just doing that from last week.
Did you know one thing I picked up? I didn't realize that it's a good idea. You should always let the sommelier have a taste of a nice wine if you open a bottle. Never occurred to me. I didn't know that.
Sam, this is for the Napa weekend, etiquette weekend that you have to host next.
Well, I didn't realize I'd never had a caviar bump. You ever had a caviar bump?
I don't know. I don't think so. But like a cocaine bump? Like what?
Yeah. Well, you kind of put it on your hand the same way. The point is you don't...
Isn't bump a drug word?
I don't know. They call it caviar bump. Anyway,
all right.
I learned a lot. The founders had a great time. And we learned a lot about practical, like how to approach setting culture in your company and how to think about showing up a room with a low heart rate and giving more than you get. And a lot of actually, I think, very important lessons.
How do you show up into a room with a low heart rate?
Yeah, what's the low heart rate advice?
There's two ways to think about it. You show up in a fancy room for the first time. One is mentality of scarcity. This is your one chance to meet this important person or impress someone or like do the right thing. Your heart rate is up. You're over pitching. You're stretching. You're trying to. Your pitch is too long. You're occupying too much people's time. Versus a low heart, you say like, look, I deserve to be in this room. I'm not stressed about it. I was invited. I have something to add. I'm going to give more than I get to the conversation. And I think just, a lot of etiquette comes down to being comfortable in different spaces and showing up as yourself and giving more than you get. So it was a very successful event. We will do many more. Everyone got a certificate of completion and there was a graduation ceremony, which went great. But all in all, a great event.
Wow. And how many people attended?
About 50. Now, there was a long wait list. We only had a room that could hold 50. So we'll have to upsize next time.
Who is the great etiquette expert of all time? I would have never called Sam for writing the book, becoming Silicon Valley's, what was it, Emily Post or the original? Yeah.
Well, there's sort of, isn't there, I think every time needs an etiquette expert. I might posit. I think sometimes the most likely heroes are the ones who emerge. No, I'm kidding. But
I think it's a good turn for Sam.
I mean, our boys are now talking about etiquette at dinner. They're like asking me to re-enter a room so that they can stand up.
Actually, this is a good extension, Sam. I think doing the children of Silicon Valley etiquette class would be quite great because there's not very many spaces where kids have to learn, particularly on the West Coast.
Etiquette is fundamentally about showing respect for the environment you're in. And I think it's just more important, the era of the young technologist with ripped jeans and a t-shirt that doesn't understand and disobeys all the rules of a local community, but it doesn't matter because they're kind of the interesting new novelty. And in some ways that you show how important you are by how shittily you behave because you're still important, even though you're an asshole. I think it's just over. People are now scared of Silicon Valley. It's not some small sideshow. People are worried about their jobs. People are worried about the impact on the economy and business. And I think it's important for leaders to be able to show up and say, I have respect for this environment. I have respect for this context, whether it's investors or people that you need to build trust with as employees or customers. I respect you. And I'm going to follow the rules of etiquette in your space. And I think you win a lot by that. And this is the thing, the YC story of all you need is product market fit and move on, I think is just a very antiquated story. I think the story you need to show up now is I can bring to a lot. I can give more than I get. I have the technology. You can trust me to back it up, but I also have the respect to exist in your space. So we're long etiquette.
The trust thing is interesting. And this was so I wrapped my WTF Women's Conference. I'm sorry you couldn't stage your protest this year. Next year, no queens, as Sam says.
Dave, you're joining for that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm co-hosting it with you.
There's a long list of people who would like to join in my DMs. So
the No Queens WTF protest, it's not a real event unless it's protested.
It'd be great. We might go to a bigger venue too, so you guys will have even more space to protest. So.
Fantastic.
I am gonna get the protest sponsored. Bud Light needs back into a manosphere. Do you think Bud Light will give us several $1 million to protest the WTF conference to get back into the manosphere?
As long as your protest is not more lucrative than my event, I'll be okay.
Did you say manosphere or manners sphere?
Oh, the manosphere. I'm into it.
But what I was going to say, and guys, we're going to talk some tech news this week. I know that's shocking, but one of the most interesting themes and discussions was about Silicon Valley's reputation with actually the woman who's run Palantir's comms for 20 years or so. And I was really pushing her on, it's so funny. The reputation of tech does keep getting worse and worse and worse. And by reputation, I mean yes, we know that the government's had its issues with it, but public trust is low. And there's a real tension there because these products are beloved. And, if you threaten to take away my Amazon same day delivery, I'm coming for you. But I think as Silicon Valley is seeking capital for new places and new types of businesses and new stakeholders, is dealing obviously with governments around the world. I can make the case that actually not showing up as the contrarian in jeans and hoodie, makes sense. The flip side is if you're the hot thing, you're the hot thing, and you can show up in your pajamas and no one's going to care. But for everyone who's not the hottest thing, I think there's a lot to that. So
who's the hottest thing anyway? I think technology is becoming increasingly
OpenAI. Sam Altman, I mean, look at him. He can still show up, anywhere in the world looking like a...
They're actually huge. I mean, they're what, a $1 trillion company. They're like a Mag 7 now, right?
No, they are. They're also the hot thing. They're both. I mean, that...
But they're not... You can't even call them a startup anymore, right? They're just like...
I wasn't calling him a startup. I was calling him the hot thing.
The hot thing, yeah.
But Jess, I actually think for what it's worth, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I would actually argue that for all of my gripes with Sam Altman, he actually has great etiquette.
Accurate.
He wears a suit well. He shows up in the right places. He's not showing up in like the Saudis with PJs. He's showing up and looking right and saying the right stuff. And so I think that's a great example of how the world has changed. And I
guess he shows up on his own dev conference videos in PJs or whatever, but just a little bit different.
Well, but he's always in a t-shirt and jeans, but that's the right etiquette for developer conferences, right?
Yeah. No, I don't think he's like disrespectful. And you're right.
I actually think he's quite respectful. And I think that's actually kind of the trick here is what's going on is I actually think AI is a great example of a place where there's so much stress around it that etiquette and being in the culture that you're selling to and building trust with that culture really matter. I mean, you're raising a gajillion dollars. You're going to meet the customs and meet people where they're at. And that's actually a sign of like the idea that I spent the time to learn your culture and match it and be part of it, as opposed to rolling into, the UAE in a t-shirt and saying, fuck you, give me money, is like, that's the era we're in.
Yeah. And so you roll in. Yeah, I'm going to refrain from saying the next thing.
You don't roll into the White House, right, in 2025, right, and say, like, I'm a technologist, like, whatever. You roll in and you look the part and you shake hands properly and you bring a gift.
And you bring Trump a gift, gold-plated gift.
You bring a gift.
Yeah, gifts are the key for this culture.
How did gift giving show up at Etiquette School? After I revealed my book gifting habits, so many different people thought that I was talking about them on the pod.
Really?
When I hunted and, but like I think I went on about like my airport hunt for the perfect book. That's like 1 out of 5 books I give. The others are like top of the pile kind of thing. And so I guess I've given a lot of books, but yeah, now I feel the bar is raised on the caliber of each book.
The only thing I will say on gift giving is probably the classiest person at the event, of course, showed up and gave me a beautiful gift. So gift giving is alive and well.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. Has anyone been paying attention to the news this week? Just checking. Anyone been paying attention? Sam's been preparing for Etiquette School. Well, here are a couple of headlines who have jumped out. Okay. So most recently, shocker, Google and Apple are doing a Siri deal. So Siri is going to be powered by Gemini, essentially, until Apple, quote, figures it out. But there seems to be this pattern here of Apple realizing Google is pretty good at this stuff, and they'll be pretty good at other things. So, I mean, the most interesting thing to me about this is like OpenAI got the initial deal by basically being faster at biz dev than Google. But in the fullness of time, Google got in there.
I'm quite annoyed I don't own a bunch of Google stock for what it's worth.
You say this every week.
We've been talking about this for several episodes. Why aren't you activating?
It doesn't really easily fit in my portfolio.
It's expensive.
It is expensive, but it's also just like, it doesn't really fit in my life from a practical perspective.
What does being a passive shareholder contribute to your daily responsibilities?
Says the man in a suit in a SUV driving through Silicon Valley.
Are you in a Waymo, by the way?
I wish I were. I'm not, because I have to come to Hillsborough. But no, just like the problem is, here's my problem with public equities, is to invest enough in them that it matters. Just takes a lot of cash, like post-tax cash. And you can't get crazy early stage venture returns, nor at 3 trillion, whatever, is it like a total portfolio stabilizer. So it's just like really hard to figure out how to invest in it meaningfully. I mean, I did this. I'll tell you my story with this is a 10x ago, I called some friends and I said, I really want to buy a bunch of Cloudflare stock. And they kind of were trying to talk me out of it. I did buy a little bit. It's up 10x over 5 years, but I didn't have the balls to put enough into it that it matters. So it just becomes like, eh. And that's my problem with Google stock is like, if it doubles, that's not venture style returns. And it's a very concentrated position and use of cash. So I haven't figured out in my life how to invest in public equities.
That's reasonable. You can invest in other things. I will say I was this week years old when I figured out that Gemini can read my email and add things to my calendar. Game changing. Game changing. Like, when you're like juggling and someone like schedules something and you're not like at a place where you can conveniently enter it to your calendar and you're at your phone, but you're also on the phone and then you enter it for the wrong day and then your doctor's appointment is ruined or whatever. That happens to me a lot. Now, I just talk to Gemini and say, next Thursday at 4:30, make an item for this.
And now Siri's set. That's the use case everybody wants out of Siri anyway.
Yeah. Also, here's a pro tip. I highly recommend connecting Gemini to your Gmail, then asking it to analyze your email responding in some way, right? I asked it, analyze the emails I have not responded to over the last month and identify patterns and give me tips for better response. Now, some of those emails I don't intend to respond to, but it actually had, what I say, obvious suggestions, but it bucketed them in ways that made me realize I get a lot of emails that are sort of status updates, but then sometimes there's a request for information below and this whole thing. So anyway, that was my Gemini move. But Dave, so what do you think this means for Apple and Siri? Are people finally going to want to use Siri?
Maybe. I mean, I think people use Siri all the time, but it's just frustrating compared to the state of the art. So this sounds to me like it's going to bring it up to speed. And I haven't read any of the news, so I'm just reacting to you telling me now. But it sounds to me like the same thing as this Safari search deal, right? Like there's this famous story that Steve Jobs actually wanted to buy Google way back. If you go way back in the old stories of the Valley, there's a famous story about iCloud when it was first going. It was originally called .Mac. And there was like a really terrible misexecution. Steve was super upset that the execution didn't happen fast enough and had a bunch of errors. And so the story goes that he famously like stormed in to the executive meeting and was like, we should just buy Google. And at that point in time was not actually a crazy idea evaluation. And instead, they ended up doing this massive search deal that we all know today, powered search. And they just didn't get into the search business and instead focused their resources on the iPhone and everything that we know of as Apple's market cap today. And so I think you could look at this as a very similar strategy move on their part, where getting into the foundation model game is extremely capital intensive. They've shown only an appetite to invest something like 10, maybe 20% of their operating cash flow in AI infrastructure. They're not willing to spend 70, 80% like Meta or Amazon or Microsoft. And so this makes strategic choice based on the chess pieces on the board as we see them, is my view, and gets kind of the 80% of use cases that people probably want out of Siri anyway. And then if there's like a long game here, it's the one we've been talking about on the pod for a long time, which is that I think Apple likely is looking much more at the silicon level and the edge level on their devices, and how do they bring innovation to super small on-device models, and this sort of notion that sometime in the far off future there's going to be AIs in the cloud and AIs on the edge device, and they're going to sort of interpret each other and give you what you want in a bunch of different ways. And if I'm Apple, like I'm focused entirely on the edge, and I let everybody else play this high capex foundation game.
Do you guys know developers using that? Like, Sam, I want to go to your point, but also to add, if you know, Sam, like.
So I've talked to people who are moving towards Apple's like effectively edge small LLMs on the device. I've also talked to people who are like, it's not going to work anytime soon. The device is overheat. It doesn't actually work yet, etc.
It doesn't work today. Yeah.
Look, here's the interesting story. Elon Musk last week, I think, tweeted this thing as part of earnings that I think is like kind of a big meta picture. Who knows? But I think is an interesting point. He's like, Tesla is not going to need to build some big AI infrastructure because the cars are the AI infrastructure. And when the car is not driving, we'll just like run AI workloads on the cars. Right? Now, the reason that is interesting.
It's SETI at home all over again.
Well, I just think it's this distributed thing where like if you have an iPhone or a Tesla, or there's a reason someone's going to pay for the computer, right, for other things, and then you can just use it when it's not being used, and you have this huge, effectively virtual cloud and compute floating around. I can totally imagine there are workloads that's going to be incredibly effective for. It won't be effective for everything, right? But like, especially if the networking gets strong enough, you know, whether it's Starlink or whatever, I mean, that's obviously not even close to enough. You can totally imagine these different configurations where it's very good if people, instead of you having to buy the computers, people buy the computers for something else for you, and then you can just kind of use them on the side. But the thing, the iPhones, right? iPhones are just a shitload of compute people are buying to use as iPhones. But if you're Apple, you know, they're basically paying for your CapEx in that way, right? In the way that if you're a Google or whatever, you have to actually buy it yourself. That said, look, my big macro tech though is like the only thing I use ChatGPT for really is there's a set of questions which are better answered by an LLM because you want to be able to follow up on them versus a single shot into a Google search. That is true, right? And like, it's not that many queries and they're not the most monetizable in my experience, but they're non-zero. I do think in those types of use cases, the race to the interface does matter. I never use Siri. I always disable it because it's a piece of shit. But if all of a sudden it did not
Disable, wow.
I just disable it. It doesn't work. But
You disable what?
Siri. I just like when they're like turn on Siri, I'm like, no. Right. If Siri basically was just Gemini though, and was the top of the stack and I can single click it off the side of my iPhone or something by default, I probably would use that for most of my workloads, right? That are like random consumer things versus ChatGPT. Right. And so I do think that really does matter from a competitive landscape perspective.
I'm hearing more and more people are liking ChatGPT and Gemini because they just don't have to skip. Like, it's just the search experience has really gotten quite bad.
Wait, the Google search experience, like the original, like OG? Yeah, totally. I mean, I barely use it anymore.
I'll be looking up some brand and my brain knows that the first three are going to be competitors bidding against the brand. And then the second two are going to be the brand at some major retailer that has better SEO than the brand. And it's somewhere in the line, all right, I'm going to find the brand. But this is where their AI overviews, you know, might change the game too. But I guess one of my questions is just like, what's the relative capability or feature set of these edge on device models versus other things, right? Like, can they do a 10th of what a cloud-driven LLM can do? Can they do a percentage of it? I mean, I'm sure it varies, but I just don't have a sense of like how far along they are.
You can clean up your photos.
Okay.
You can actually download, there's a few apps. I think one of them is called Simply AI or Locally AI. Let me look it up. Yeah, Locally AI. And it's just somebody built a simple iOS wrapper that you can talk directly to the foundation model that's on the phone. And it's interesting to just take queries that you're doing using the cloud models and see what the difference is, right?
Oh, there you go. That's great.
And yeah, you know, they feel it feels whatever significantly less smart, but it's not stupid, right? Like, I don't know what the exact differential is. We'd have to go look it up, but the thing's there and it's running, and you know, it's doing a lot of things on the phone already. But to Sam's point, like, we are a ways off from developers being able to use these things in high velocity, important workloads. And they certainly can't do really advanced things with photo, video, these types of things, even large context windows. Like, we're way off from that.
And it's also unclear. I guess the question is, how much is it going to be a direct competitor to the big guys are sort of like the whole market's growing and this is a compliment. And I mean, I guess in theory, OpenAI and Anthropic could develop these models too. They don't have the like hardware advantage in sort of designing and all. And
though they're racing towards it.
Yeah, though they are.
They clearly see it as strategic and important, right? They're launching browsers to compete with Google. They're launching, they've acquired Johnny Ive and crew to compete with Apple. They view it as like, competition across the entire technology surface, right?
They do. They do. For those who are close followers of this, the information has all of Anthropic's latest numbers published this week. Someone tweeted, the information is the new SEC filing. Thought, okay, that works. Sort of, not really. But what's notable is just...
Now you should start running the private market.
Yeah. No conflict, no interest.
If you just were like, look, we're going to get them anyway, so just give them to us and convince them.
That was a joke, by the way. I have to, yes. Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
You should just convince all these companies, like, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Just like give us all this shit. Like, it's like, we're going to get it either way, all your numbers. So you should just send them to me. Email submission@theinformation.com and send us all your numbers.
I think the companies could honestly care less that we get these numbers. I will say they don't give them to us. Like, people always come up to me. They're like, oh, doing OpenAI's dirty work for them by publishing their numbers. I'm like, yeah, not really. But so VCs assume that these companies like beg us to do this. I will be on the record saying they do not. I also think they don't care. They have huge investor bases. These numbers this happened when ByteDance got big and, you have X number of investors and you start hosting quarterly phone calls with your investors, right? It's not, and a number of these numbers or forecasts that we know also when we report them are just that. But there are a lot of interesting nuggets. And I think they're interesting roadmaps for like important reporting to do when you see patterns in their forecasts. You're like, okay, wait, what? Why would that go up by so much, right? And then it triggers interesting questions. So, but, headline, surging. Anthropic, surging. The businesses are using a lot of the AI.
Code.
It's coding. It's all coding.
Just code.
Yeah.
That's my main use case. I don't use it for anything else.
And that market's getting bigger, but it's kind of wild. Other big headline of the week, I don't know if the VCs are going to want to talk about it, but I don't particularly care. New stewards at Sequoia. Roloff announced he was stepping aside with Alfred and Pat taking over.
End of an era.
I can tell you what the news world thought of this. What did the VC world think about it?
I like Roloff. I like Alfred. Who's the third guy?
Pat Grady.
I don't know Pat Grady that well, but the other two I quite like. They're both good guys.
The VCs are speechless. Look at them. They won't say a thing.
I think what you said the word is steward. I think that's an interesting choice of words.
That's what they call it. That's not my word. That's their word.
Well, it's just like so telling, right? Because it's just like that. They think of themselves as stewards of capital and stewards of a firm. Like I don't know enough about Sequoia to know how much it actually matters, right? Like who's in the seat. They're both good. Like Roloff is a good guy. Alfred's a good guy. I kind of doubt that like you're going to see some like massive shakeup in what Sequoia is or what they do in Heritage. So it's like, good. Does it matter? I wouldn't want to run that firm.
Tell the people what Heritage is. People might not be familiar.
Heritage is the real Sequoia, which is where all the money actually is.
Which is where it's the partner's personal, like combined family office.
I think it's far beyond that. It's like a massive.
No, it's like more like an iconic at this point. It's huge. But it's like, I think it did start out as the partner's money, but it's gotten way bigger than that. It's kind of where the action is in the Sequoia world. It's the venture funds are still the venture funds, but like most of the assets are not in the venture funds. They're in Heritage.
What does Heritage invest in? I know the answer to this.
Literally everything. They're like true capitalists, which I respect.
Data centers.
No, yeah, they're like a massive capital allocator, like on the level of the, Harvard endowment or the iconic, they're one of the largest LPs in the world.
And they're just like, I actually respect it. It's just like straight capitalism. It's not venture capitalism. It's just capitalism.
Oh yeah. I thought that was over venture capitalism.
I will say I served on the board of Eventbrite with Roloff for close to a decade. He's one of the smartest people I've ever interacted with. I don't think anybody disagrees on that. So I hope everything's okay. Seems like a short window that he was the steward. So sad to see him go, but I agree with Sam. Like it's a big machine over there, and Alfred's great. He was a mentor to me during the Path years, gave me a lot of great advice. I think the world of him. I don't know Pat that well either. So
I will say this, which is, if you're like, why would Roloff only be the steward of Sequoia for 3 years? The Sam lesson brain is like, well, first of all, the title's steward. That sounds like a terrible job. And second of all, like, who wants to run a big institution? Like, I don't know. If I were him, I'd be out of there in less than 3 years. So I know he's not me, but it's not that surprising to me. It sounds like a not fun job.
The prior stewards did it over a decade. That's, I think, the thing that everybody's asking, right?
Well, let me introduce some facts into the conversation, right? Or just some I don't know. That's too strong a thing. I think this is right, but honestly, it's all a blur. Roloff really fought for that job, and he fought, I believe, with Neil Shen. So, and I think Roloff deserves a tremendous amount of credit for untangling the mess that was Sequoia and Sequoia China. And I think that from like a non-deal making structure kind of like defines his, was one of the trickier high wire acts in venture capitalism and geopolitics, right? But
he also was the guy, we're not going to sell anything ever, right? Which is was a big like idea.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, it wasn't likely that Neil was going to be the steward of Sequoia given all of this, but Neil had ByteDance, right? So it was, and maybe this was overplayed somewhat because VCs like to overplay all personnel matters, and perhaps reporters do the same from time to time. And so that was interesting. And I think, look, the Journal reported today which we've heard as well, that there were some like management tensions over his management style. Now, again, we haven't reported anything because we don't feel like we have anything to report because that's a very kind of vague thing. And the Journal decided to run it. But people ask me all the time, as an operator and a journalist, and you have that view of what journalists get right or wrong about business, what do they get right or wrong about business? And every time I'm asked this question, the answer is clear. I think journalists get personnel-related matters pretty wrong most of the time. And I think it's because at the end of the day, these decisions and dynamics are like two people in a room. And even the closest people right outside that room could have their theories about what's happening. But, as someone sometimes in those rooms in personnel matters, the truth is basically never reflected, honestly. And I think that's largely because things are complicated and multidimensional, and it comes down to a bunch of like internal and external factors. So I always tread cautiously on these topics, both as a reporter and in general, because I've seen so many people whose reputations in Silicon Valley, and they'll leave a company and the press will report it as meaning something for this company. And that person has not done a single thing of consequence at that company for 12 years, but no one really knows that. And so actually, it's a blessing that this person has moved on because now the organization can function properly. But the public narrative, and often picked up by the media because, there are like two people, the person and their boss, who know what went down, is wrong. So anyway, that's what it brought up for me.
I think there's also a dynamic where reporters don't manage anyone. So they have no idea what it looks like. Right.
Yeah.
And like the irony is sort of venture capitalists generally not manage anyone. So they're terrible at management. Like venture capitalists are awful managers in general, unless like they were 20-year operators and they kind of like opted out of it anyway. And like journalists don't know anything about management because like they never manage anyone. So like their ability to like understand what's going on is, I think, quite limited usually.
And I would argue that venture firms are also, and law firms, these structures are relational structures, right? Where you've got a group relationship that has a particular dynamic. And I think you're very thoughtful in how you're pointing this out, Jess, that like the dynamic usually you can't describe it. You can't write it down in words. If the dynamic's not working. You've got to figure out how to make it work. It's sort of like when you watch the Warriors, and there's certain players when they're on the court make the team worse, and there's certain players that when they're on the court make the team better, even if they're not the ones scoring all the points or doing all the assists, right? And there's actually a metric for this in basketball, and describing that is very difficult. And I think most media don't actually take the time to go try to figure out, like, oh, this is normal stuff. Humans sometimes get into relational places with each other that don't work out, and it's actually good if everyone figures out how to move on, right? It's better for everybody. And the story usually gets written as some villain versus hero story or something like that has nothing to do with the actual dynamic.
I get it all. I just think on the personal level, I'd be like, if you put me in charge of running Sequoia randomly, I would last about 2 seconds for lack of interest. And so I look at this and I'm like, roll-off is a good example. It's like if I were in roll-off shoes, like I did my 3 years, I won the political war I wanted to win, I guess, and caught the bone, and like, well, I don't need this in my life.
Yeah, no one's calling you for that job, Sam. So we're good. We're good. But
you'd be surprised if you go back a bunch of years in history what jobs I didn't get called for. But yes, I hear you.
Fair enough. Okay, what else are you guys paying attention to this week? The gift guides are coming out, which I have some thoughts on these tech gift guides. Are very much because I'm in the middle of thinking of my contributions to ours. But what else in the world of venture capital? Startups, crypto. Sam, you've been sending me screenshots of asset prices all week. What's going on? Give us the update.
Oh, I just find it hilarious that Jelly.
A tale of two cities.
I looked at my portfolio yesterday. Everything is down except for Jelly, which is sitting at a $400 million market cap. Now, why this is?
Okay, for those people who just joined the podcast in the last few episodes, you need a primer of these two knuckleheads and Jelly. Okay, whoever wants to talk about it.
Hey, look, this is not a knucklehead thing. This is a serious thing.
It started...
Meme coins are interesting. They're great ways to build community. There is an app called Jelly, started by Ikram, who is one of the two co-founders of Venmo. I am its largest investor. I think, certainly, I think I'm the only institutional investor. I'm certainly the largest investor. And in talking with him after a conversation with Dave and you on the podcast, we decided it was a good idea to wrap a meme coin around it, which I launched. And the application has adopted and is driving, and the app is cool. It's got a lot going on, but it literally is traded very heavily, and
it's gone far beyond any expectation.
Well, it's kind of like the wild thing about crypto, which is like, again, I haven't bought or sold. I haven't sold any. I actually did buy some early, but I haven't sold ever any of it. Certainly not the Genesis wallet, but yeah, this thing basically initially ripped and then came down a bit, and it's built a bunch of energy. And I was just wild to watch last week it go to a $400 million market cap.
Well, to his credit, the coin launch happened on a version, we were doing a conversation after the podcast on Jelly.
That's right.
And that's how this all started.
Yeah, I screenshotted it and made a meme coin.
Our faces are literally the cover of the meme coin.
I literally screenshotted a window on my computer with our faces talking about it and posted it as a meme coin. And that is how it started. But he's done a great job picking up and running with it. I mean,
he's now integrated it. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I was going to say, is that he's actually really organically... I think it's a cool story of entrepreneurship and actually how building good products actually works. There's we've talked about this narrative before that you go to some, incubator in the city and they tell you to focus on one metric and just really accelerate towards that metric to get to demo day in 6 weeks or whatever. And then 70 to 80% of the startups that do that just fail. Meanwhile, you have people like Ikram out there that really kind of get in there with the community, try this new technology, bumble around, try to figure out how it's going to work and how it's going to fit. And then a year later, they're in this really organic and kind of beautiful place with their community and their product that actually is starting to work. And that's actually...
Well, but is that why the meme coin is up, right? So, and for those uninitiated, Jelly, the app, Or is it one jelly or two jellies the app?
Jelly. One jelly is the app. Jelly, my jelly is the coin. One jelly.
It's kind of cool. It's like you record video, but it is both a selfie and an outbound camera in the same screen. So you see kind of on top of each other what the camera's seeing as well as what the filmer's seeing. How would you describe it, Sam?
I think the important, what Ikram's working on and has been for a while, is this idea of like effectively filterless, like authentic social media and like the revival that's going to happen around that as the world gets like, so if you think about like Sora as like the AI direction where everything is like disassociated from humans and polished, Jelly's like the authentic, real version of this. And it's raw. It's front cam, back cam, real conversations, real people, not edited, kind of, you record video on the fly. There's these incredible integrations they built, around, again, this is the founder of Venmo or the two. So it's like unsurprising around tipping people and locking and unlocking videos based on sending jelly coins. Like there's the whole economy that he's building around it. But fundamentally, it's like, I think that's the bet he's been working on for a while now and iterating with the community on is just like, we're all kind of sick of the over-polished AI shit. Like we kind of just want real humans and real stories. And so what does that look like and what's the form factor recording that and sharing that? So I'm pretty amped about what he's doing. But to Dave's point, we started with the theme. There's a strong tie to like, how do you use a currency well in the app to unlock things and share things and kind of tip things and all that type of stuff. And it's going on. Now, why is the coin itself up so much this week versus 2 weeks ago? Look, there's a bunch of people trading it. Like, I think that there's this drumbeat of people believing in it in the community, but there's also just like, it's not me, but there's a bunch of people who just trade it, right? And so I think they just traded it to, as the crypto community says, the moon right now. But like, there's a fundamental drumbeat of really interesting stuff going on. So
yeah, but Sam, the question is, would that have happened? Would there have been sustained energy if there wasn't a really talented, product-oriented entrepreneur building an app continually on top of this ecosystem?
No, of course not, right? And I think what's actually even interesting is there's now the Wobbles. Someone started Wobbles is like an offshoot where someone created some sort of like coin based on like the mascot for Jelly that's getting energy, and like I'm sure we'll end up somehow integrated. Who knows? But like. There's like, I just think to Dave's point, there is this interesting, like, what does community-driven development look like of these concepts and apps and building energy around them? And I think crypto can be a really important part of that.
And you can't do it in 6 weeks, right? Like, it's just not possible.
No. Right. But if you're a long-term believer, anyone who bought Jelly earlier, the long-term believers, in theory, is a liquid thing that can sell for a lot of money right now. I just think it's like, you have to separate out the drumbeat development, which is the core engine, from the fact that there are obviously a lot of people just like trading on top of that, right? Which is why number go up so much this week versus last week or whatever. But it is just kind of wild numbers. I mean, the thing that kind of blows my mind is Jelly, even now, obviously it's very volatile, but like even now it's a several $100 million market cap on this thing that's like which is way bigger than some like actually quite hard, technical, legitimate crypto projects that I'm involved in. Like in terms of like literally like, and I'm like kind of like.
I was just gonna check how big's Aleo's market cap.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna name that one, but yeah, Jelly is bigger.
Is it really?
Yeah, and like that's hard tech with like hundreds of millions of dollars from people like SoftBank. Anyway.
I love when I ask Sam why these things are happening, and he looks at me and goes, "Belief."
Yeah, it is an interesting time in crypto right now. I don't know, Sam, what's your take on what's happening?
Look, I was a seed investor in Ripple, which I think I just saw some report raised at a $40 billion valuation. Like, I think there's like mainline crypto payment rails, which have kind of just become like, they're gonna happen. They are happening. The technology makes sense. These things have real market caps. There was real, I think, political uncertainty before, but there's enough certainty now. People are just marching ahead and doing good infrastructure work. I think what's less clear is like the application side. I also think the nice part about crypto is like, there's always opportunity for something amazing to happen and something new to come out. So I don't know. I'm always looking at crypto opportunities. I have avoided / not invested in many. There's like kind of the obviously going to happen stuff around payments. There's stuff like the prediction markets are super interesting and like seem pretty real. And then, there's always the opportunity for a new amazing thing to come along. or, consumer apps, but they're not there yet.
Belief?
Well, yeah, in what, yeah.
I'm not knocking it. It's not, I mean, it's also, you could say the thing, why did Apple go up today? Right. I mean, so it's not like I get it. Markets are psychological.
Yeah. The difference is Apple doesn't go up by 300% in a day. Like belief doesn't swing that wildly. So the thing that was interesting about crypto is that belief can swing more wildly than, especially than kind of major equities with like deep liquidity and like buyers who are institutional and always going to hit the bid at XYZ price, etc.
I do think though there's this thing that happened a couple of weeks ago. I think it was Hyperliquid. There's a lot of perp contracts out there and people using leverage in crypto at levels that was not typically the case.
Well, where we've heard this before. This was what FTX did. I mean, what's it called? It has the same name as what FTX did, like forward something or other.
They're called perps.
Perps. Yeah, perps are really cool.
Perp. But that was the FTX thing, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Jess?
This is like perpetual futures. Is this what we're talking about or no?
The option, yeah, perpetual futures, basically just allows you to have up to 100x leverage on things. And Dave is right. Like when you see big unwinds in crypto, it's usually because people just get blown up on shorts or long positions. If the shorts get blown up, the thing rips. If the long gets blown up, they get crushed. If there's a lot of leverage in the system, and then there's like a leverage level at any point you look at, which is like, okay, how levered are people on their bets? And if people are super levered, then it can go way up or way down super quickly, right? It's not that the only difference with the normal side is just there can, in theory, be way more leverage in crypto from way less sophisticated people, in theory, right? Because there isn't the same guardrails in place as there is in the traditional market.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like a lot of people are asking, like, what's happening? Why is this swing seems bigger? And to Sam's point about belief, I think actually this thing moved so quickly. And the only reason that would happen is because of the amount of leverage that's in the system. So I think a lot of people are actually questioning their belief right now in the system. And so you're sort of seeing some weird behavior the last few weeks because of this. Hyperliquid and these perp exchanges are pretty new. Like they're I think less than a year old.
I mean, there's also, I think you have to talk about Bitcoin is just quite different than everything else. Like,
Sure.
It's not that there won't be swings in Bitcoin. There will be swings in Bitcoin. There can be a ton of leverage in Bitcoin, right? But like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of buyers at Bitcoin at 100K. There's a pretty deep market there. I don't think it's versus other things, which I think like are much more volatile. And there's like much like thinner markets too.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we had this meme coin corner. And you guys will keep us posted.
Absolutely. Guys, I do...
Oh, we're losing Sam. He's not in the Waymo. By the way, has anyone seen the Waymos on El Camino? I'm sorry. I know I've tweeted about this. Waymo reporter here. So, they're opening up more of the, what I used to call the South Bay, but I now know is referred to as the Mid-Peninsula to Waymo. And so this is where all the tech people, not all the tech people live, but it's flooded with Googlers and tech people and all these people who want to use Waymo and who's only been using it in the city. And like last weekend, I was just driving on El Camino and I was like, it was like swarms of them and just how rapidly they've taken over El Camino it's not surprising to me because it's like the right market for it and obviously been penetrated in the Bay Area already. But it was kind of cool. And now, for those of you who don't live in our fine geography, El Camino is sort of parallelish to 101, where the Waymos can't go, and is obviously faster because it is a highway. But now I'm like, maybe I'll take El Camino down to Redwood City because I can get in the Waymo. So anyway, Dave, they'll come to you. My boys
it's never going to happen.
my boys love Waymos. They've never been in them, but they feel like they're in the future.
Really? Everybody in the city only allows their children to use Waymo.
Well, my kids don't move around the city much. It's not, I'm not holding them back. It's also like my littlest is 3. He like needs a car seat restraint, but they're so today one was crying and I was like, oh, let's see if we see a Waymo on the way to school. You never know. And he just like, shut up. But anyway, this is my prediction that El Camino is going to be an important thoroughfare relative to the 101 because the people are going to want their Waymos. What do you think, Sam?
I'm doing something. Yeah, stay for a minute and they'll be right back because I have something very exciting.
Dave, I'm glad that we can be the responsible ones who can sit our butt in a seat
etiquette.
For at least
podcast space
45 minutes. And I know I missed a few. And again, my big event last week, so I'm sorry I wasn't here, but it's still... But I do know actually what Sam is preparing because he must have arrived home to see his delivery corner of stuff.
I did see my delivery corner. I'm very excited about it.
I knew you would be excited when you saw.
Oh my goodness. Dave, are you ready? Are you ready?
Oh, he's not wearing the suit anymore.
It's very special. Look what I've made.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay, everybody. Sam is wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is my greatest achievement of the year. It's my No Kings and Queens of Jackson Hole
free
t-shirt.
Jackson Hole.
Free Jackson Hole. For those who don't know.
So good.
Take the microphone, Sam. Just take it. Yes.
Dave, for those who don't know, I'm very proud of this. This is my greatest achievement of the year. Is you may or may not be aware of this and call this No Kings and Queens protests. And I'm like, I want to be a no kings and queens person, but like, what do I not want kings and queens of? And what you may or may not know is in Jackson Hole, there's an annual contest called the Kings and Queens of Corbets. And the problem with kings and queens, it's a big problem. It is very cool. People show up. It's awesome. Here's the problem. They shut down Corbets for like a month to get let it snow in, which prevents you from skiing it because they're trying to make it perfect for people. But the kings and queens of Corbets means I can't ski Corbets for half the season. So I am here on the podcast to announce my new campaign, No Kings and Queens of Corbets, which we have No Kings and Queens, free Jackson Hole. This will be a thing that I'd stand behind. Dave, I'd like your support. And we are going to blow this up and we're gonna liberate Corbet's No Kings and Queens of Jackson Hole.
It's so good. I'm going to need hats. I need a hat. Yeah.
I'm thinking stickers. I'm thinking hats. I think we give it out to all the kids on their first day of ski school. We're just going to
Absolutely. Helmet stickers, the whole thing.
Helmet stickers. It's going to be, this is my campaign of the year. And
doesn't this bring money and commerce and fame and branding to the resort that needs all of those things?
It doesn't need any more. There are already too many people on the slopes at Jackson Hole.
Says the happy season pass holders, yes.
But no. I think this goes back to the point about your No Queens protest.
I'm of the people, Dave.
I don't like my friends getting hit by out of control skiers on slopes that are overcrowded, Jess.
That's true. I'm all for that.
I'm just more every good protest needs a counter protest. So you're getting a No Queens protest for WTF. Jackson is getting a No Kings and Queens protest for Kings and Queens, and it's good for everyone. I actually think, unfortunately,
it's going to revitalize Kings and Queens.
It's going to be it's only a thing if there's a counter thing. So I'm here to provide the counter thing.
It's a lovely t-shirt. I gotta give you some props. I mean, you've designed a range of t-shirts over the years, but what I like about this one, I like the color. It looks soft.
It looks like a ChatGPT font. Is that a ChatGPT font?
Dave, I did this at dinner in Mexico City with ChatGPT and customing in 45 minutes. I literally was at dinner.
Sam, it's slop. You made AI slop.
It's okay to make slop for protests.
If you look at the skier, because it's ChatGPT, one of his legs is missing.
Yeah, I was wondering about that actually.
And I was with our good friend Aaron Sitze. We were in Mexico City, literally on Thursday having dinner. And I was like, I need to make this shirt. I was with Dan Korn, a mountain guide I love, we were climbing with. And I was like, I'm making it right now. I went to Custom Ink, rush delivery. You get it 3 days later. But the funniest thing is Aaron saw the logo. He thought, that's pretty good. He's like, send it to me. I'll clean it up. And you can make it. I was like, no, you don't need to clean it up. I'm just making it.
Oh my God. Aaron in 3 hours would have made that 10 times better.
Maybe, but I think it's an aesthetic. I think direct from ChatGPT is an aesthetic. And that's the aesthetic Yeah.
You just need to put ChatGPT like on the back, like right above below the collar. Like this has been a ChatGPT production.
It's kind of like when you look at 90s albums, they all look like 90s grunge. Like that's what the 2020s is going to look like in the future.
It's going to look like ChatGPT made it. And it did. And part of ChatGPT making it is that one of the skiers has no legs, but that's the aesthetic.
I feel like my typos are part of this too, because if I wrote something in ChatGPT, there would not be any typos, but I just type fast and send it and there are typos. So I feel like that's the same thing.
I mean, I believe in that. I actually, hilariously, I had a former copy editor of the Wall Street Journal last week. I sent my newsletter, which I always send on Fridays.
Oh, they must have vomited.
No, he's like, I love the newsletter. I can't help myself. Like it's ARC for ARC, not ARK. And I'm like, that's a really good point. You're 100% right.
That's just bad spelling. That's not even copy.
But I'm saying, like, to your point, it's proof of humanity. It's proof of humanity. That's what we do now.
Proof of life. I didn't use an M dash. Okay, friends, this is a great t-shirt. Sam, can the listeners of this pod get their hands on any of these t-shirts?
Email me if you want one for now. I think we're going to put up a merch store. I do think we need helmet stickers. I do think we need lots of other versions of this. I'm actually sending a whole batch of these to Jackson Hole because several professional skiers want copies. So but this is a thing. This is our winter lulzy activity date is going to be blowing up No Kings and Queens. You in?
I love it. I'm in.
All
okay.
right.
Well, with that, friends, it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure. To our listeners, if you came this far, you really love us, which means we love you too. And we will be happily all back together next week for another More or Less. Bye.
If you enjoyed this show, please leave us a virtual high five by rating it and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Find more information about each episode in the show notes and follow us on social media by searching for @MoreOrLess, @DaveMorin, @Lesson, @JLesson, and as for me, I'm @Brit. See you guys next time.